Have we perhaps made a pact with the devil himself? 50 days ago, my people was riddled. We were burned alive. Our women were raped. Babies were even decapitated. More than 300 young people, including from many parts of the world, were slaughtered like pigs at a music festival. More than 200 people from my people were taken hostage. For a few days, the world felt passionate and sympathetic toward Israel and the Jewish people. But that same sympathy would not last long, because at the moment our army, the moment our government decided to defend us as well as look for our hostages, there the narrative is then changed, as if the people of Israel cannot defend themselves. I ask you, where are you seeing us from? And tell us, comment, what would your government do if a terrorist group attacked them in the same savage way in which we were attacked? Would you perhaps throw flowers at him? Of course not. And this is the problem of the West, including Latin American countries, and the thing is that they really don't know what Islam is, who it is. They keep repeating things from the news as if they were parrots, phrases that they don't even know what it means. As I said, the moment we decided to defend ourselves, then we were accused of war crimes, of genocide, and they really do not even know the foundations, the doctrine of Islam and of Hamas. And who was the supposed Prophet Muhammad? Have you studied its history? Have you even bothered to understand what has happened? Because this is not about politics or land. And this war has really shown the color of the people. And what do I mean in all this? Because from New Zealand to California, protests about liberating Palestine, that we are murderers, and as I told you, they ignore the cultural, historical, and religious background that is being carried here. As I told you, the purpose for which Hamas exists is to extinguish, to destroy, to murder Israel, the Jews. And do you know who is next? You are next! Unless you are a Muslim, then you would be free. Because in their precepts, in the precepts of Islam, even if it takes them 1,000 more years, their goal is to dominate the world. So if we don't stand up for ourselves, I assure you, you are next. Maybe not you, or your children, or your grandchildren, but that is the way they see this world. And yesterday something happened that many of us feared, and we made a pact with the devil himself. Because once again we have bowed to the demands of Hamas has made. They know very well that cannot defeat us as a regular army. That's why they use terrorist tactics. That's why they use dirty tactics. Be careful, these tactics are not new. Again, you have to really understand who their prophet was in the 7th century after Christ, because the same treasonous, lying practices that they applied were also applied by that supposed prophet. Now, we have done what we thought we weren't going to do. What's more, there were even people in our own government who opposed this. Why? Because from our own experience we know what is going to happen. When, for example, in 2011 we leased more than 1,000 criminals who were in prison for one soldier, and that was the mistake of the current Prime Minister who decided to do that. We are now releasing 150 more criminals to fly into the streets so they can release 50 of our hostages. And Hamas knows our weakness very well, because we value life, when on the contrary, they worship death. They know what our Achilles heel is, and they use tactics that, let me tell you, have served them perfectly, because that global sympathy to free Palestine. As I told you, this war has shown the color of the people. It is not because they understand what is happening here. It is not because they care about the supposed Palestinians. If you want to know, I made a video, Why Don't I Pray for Palestine?, explaining a little about the history of that supposed people. Because in reality it is the hatred that exists towards Israel. The hatred they detest and the anti-Semitism against the Jews. This is what this war is about. Do you know? There are other wars that are being waged over 10 years. Listen well, over 10 years in Yemen. When was the last time you heard about that war? Oh, of course, because the media doesn't tell you that. Saudi Arabia annihilating those of Yemen, Muslim with Muslim, when the same president of Syria annihilated his own people, Muslim with Muslim. So this is not about, oh, poor Palestinians. No, as I told you, this war has served Hamas very well. An impressive propaganda, as I told you, from New Zealand to California, that is, from the easternmost to the westernmost. Now I ask you, was this swapping logical fair? We are releasing an average of 3 criminals, because these are not people who were given a traffic ticket and are in jail. No, these are people who attempted to murder others in the land of Israel. 3 for each one. And I'm not a prophet. But I want you to mark my words. We are 50 days away from this tragedy. We are on the 2nd day of the ceasefire, and supposedly it is 4 days, and our experience has shown us that now the world is not going to allow us to continue our objectives of annihilation, exterminate our enemy that is called Hamas. They are going to do everything possible. They can even, and France has already said that it is going to put a hospital or an outpatient clinic in one of the neighborhoods in Gaza that the army has not yet entered to search. To the rest of these criminals, then, they are going to say, no, you can't attack. There is an international hospital there, and in the end, they will Hamas get away with it. In the end, they are not going to let us win. In the end, more criminals will be released from prison. Did you know that when we hit 2011, more than 1,000, and even with blood on their hands, and many of them were the ones who planned the tragedy and the crime of October 7. Now imagine, 150 criminals return to the streets. What do you think they are going to do? Of course, because it is in their DNA to take revenge and want to kill us. Be careful, and I want to explain something to you. What Israel has been doing in Gaza is not revenge, as many have accused it of taking revenge. Let me tell you something about the military power that this country has. If it was revenge, Gaza would have ceased to exist. But we don't, because we have an army with a morale that no other army has. Perhaps you would warn your enemy. Look, we are going to bomb. Get out of the building so that no one dies. And many of those numbers that give more than 10,000 or more. Who has verified that number? Be careful. I'm not saying that people haven't died, but don't forget that Hamas have used themselves as shields. They have even prohibited them from leaving their homes. So, know the facts well, and I want to leave you a question. What do you plan to do with this information? Are you going to be on the side with life? Are you going to be part of God's chosen people? Or are you simply going to be indifferent, or even worse, support these discriminators like Hamas? History is going to demand this from you. Now, if you would like to know a little more, what the people of Israel think about this deal we just made with Hamas, please let me know in the comments. And if you made it this far, we really thank you, and we ask that you please don't forget to like, and please, if you think it can benefit of this information, is that you can share it on your social networks. Again, my name is Aviel. I am Israel's super guide from here, from the land of the Messiah. Shabbat Shalom.